All right. Peace and greetings, YouTubers. Mike Todd. What you doing? Like, real talk, what you doing? I really thought I had seen it all in life. I didn't think there was too much that could shock me, but man, was I in for a surprise today. Mike Todd was like, hold on real quick, I got something for you. So, if you've seen this video, and I'm not going to post the video because for me, it's just nasty. It doesn't even need to be seen for the point to be made, but I will have some stills on the side. If you want to see the video, go somewhere else and find it. But to me, it just grossed me out. Like, my stomach has still been turning a bit after watching that. And so, long story short, Mike Todd apparently is some preacher. I'll be honest, I have never heard of him. I think I've seen him on my timeline a few times before, but I've never really clicked to watch whatever it was he was talking about. So now I have a face with the name. So anyway, he's doing this sermon, right? And you know, he's one of these kind of new age preachers that preaches a lot about prosperity. And so he was going and he's doing this sermon about, you know, when you're getting the vision and you receive the vision, sometimes it might get nasty. And so here's the scene. He's standing on a pulpit. He has somebody on the stage with him. I don't know if this was somebody that had already knew ahead of time what was going to happen, and he talked to him about it before the sermon and said, hey, I'm going to do this to you later on. Is that cool? Yeah, man, go, sure. Or if it was like he pulled somebody out of the audience as a volunteer. I don't know. But anyway, it's him standing there, the volunteer standing there. Now, I think he's doing the correlation of the story in the Bible where Jesus heals the blind man, and, you know, he uses like the spit in the mud so the man can see again. So Mike Todd is doing his sermon, and then he starts spitting in his hand. But it's not even like a little, no, it's kind of like that winded up spit. You know, like when it sounds like you're winding up a lawnmower. Like, so he's doing that. So he does one of those long ones, spits in the hand. Then he keeps talking some more, and he's, you know, stay with me. We're about to go somewhere. Because, you know, a lot of times the preachers, they swear everything they say is so revolutionary and so just enlightening. And so he's doing that. He spits some more. So he does another one. But this one, it's like one of them long, deep pulls. Like you're pulling some nicotine. Or whatever. Like that, like pulling the snot kind of sound. And so does that. Spits in the hand again. And so now the hand's getting heavy with all the stuff that's in it. He does some more talking. Spits again. What? I'm just like, oh, even the sound is gross. I hope I'm not grossing y'all out with my sound effects. Some of you ASMR folks might like that though. But anyway, so he's doing all that. He's holding all this, and I'm watching like, I just know he's not going to do what I think he's about. My eyes are not deceiving me. I can't be this cuckoo and this crazy. I just know. I just know. So he does exactly what I thought he was going to do. So he has all this hand, and mind you, it has to be like at least a fourth of a cup of spit in his hand. He goes and he just smudges it all over the man's face, like, right? Because he's talking about how it might get nasty when you're seeing the vision. So this is the vision right here, all and smudges it there, and the man has to stand there, and I mean you can see stuff like just hanging. So nasty, so nasty. And so he's just standing there, and he's trying to correlate it back to his messaging, and so half the church is like, what? But then the crazy part is there's other people like, yeah, that's deep, yeah, man. I'm like, what kind of nonsense? What? Just, what? Like, when I watched it, what? I think I had to what, like, a few times. And then, you know, for me, it's kind of, some folks were like, no, y'all don't understand. Like, he's giving the message of blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, listen, I understand people trying to correlate it to the story with Jesus and the blind man. But Mike Todd ain't Jesus. And that man wasn't blind. Because, well, maybe he might have been blind. Because he shortly, I would hope he didn't see what was coming. And stood there voluntarily and was fine with that. Because that don't sit well in my spirit. But anyway, I get the story, I get almost the intent, but the execution and the delivery is horrible. And to me, it seems very ego-driven, very kind of like a narcissistic thing to do, very self-centered, all about image. He knows that because of the stature and the status that he has as a preacher, he can pretty much do any and everything all in the name of Christianity, and he won't get too much smoke because he can just throw a scripture out there and somehow tie it back to his foolery and try to justify it as reasonable, because that seems like that's what he has done. And so it's, to me, watching him do that with the spit is literally like if there was a murder trial. Say there's some psycho dude that went and killed 8 people, stabbed them up, right? So now the lawyer is trying to explain as the prosecutor what exactly happened. And so as a way to get the jury to understand how intense everything was, he goes and starts stabbing everybody in the jury because they need to see exactly what the victims felt. Like, that's the same kind of energy I'm getting. He comes off to me as one of those kind of scammer preachers where I could see him like marrying a couple, like, you know, they're getting married and it's the wedding. I can see him making out with the man's wife and then justifying it by saying some stuff like, well, see, so what you see, what I'm doing to your wife, you're seeing the physical, But spiritually, she is now connected to you. So she's going to reject what it is I'm giving to her. See how I just, see how she's not receiving it? See how I can just see him doing that. See, she's in a spiritual realm. That's where we have to get to. We have to leave the physical and get to the spiritual. They just be saying this kind of stuff and I just be looking. And folks buy into it. Like, that's the beef I have. And I think the smoke I always have is just like, you know, a lot of people, they come to the church because they're looking for understanding. They're looking for reasoning. The world just doesn't make sense to them. Sometimes people are at their lowest. They've been hurt. And this is not, I'm not the most religious person. I'm just saying what I observe. So I'm not about to sit here and start preaching to nobody. But a lot of people tend to go to the church because they're looking for answers. They want to make sense of things that don't make sense to them. And so they tend to come to the church vulnerable. But then you got a whole bunch of folks who come into those positions of power within the church, and to me, they just come off as like scammers. I always give Creflo Dollar a whole bunch of smoke because I'm still mad about that jet situation. Remember, he had a private jet. I guess the jet was raggedy, fell apart. He needed a new one, so he wanted the church to help him raise $67 million so he could get a new jet. His reasoning was, because I'm going to use my jet to fly all around the world and do my ministry. And I was like, but you realize with that $67 million, and I'm not telling anybody how to run their business, but you know, if you really are that intent on spreading your message around the world, that $67 million could have hired a bunch of people to work on your behalf as ambassadors and go and spread in all these different countries, and you could have focused on the area in which you're in, because the location of where his church is, there's a whole lot of people who are struggling financially. And for me, I just have never felt good about preachers becoming extremely wealthy and then their congregation is still extremely poor. It's not saying that if you're a preacher, everybody in the church is supposed to be rich, but if you see that there's a specific need in the community, why are you worried about a jet? You need to take care of home first. That's just my 2 cents. And y'all know I got smoke for Joel Osteen too. I always got smoke for him any day. And anybody who got a problem with it, I said what I said. It is what it is. Y'all keep running behind some of these folks if you want to. I think people have to have discernment about the kind of people that they follow. I understand people looking for spiritual guidance or advice or finding people that they connect with, but I feel like sometimes you need discernment to see the nonsense behind the sheep. A whole lot of people can talk a good game, but there's a lot of crooked people and a lot of people who are self-centered and a lot of people who really, they could give 2 F words about anybody's well-being. It's all about what can you do for me and how can you build what it is that I'm creating, and I'll do it at any expense. That's what you're seeing with a lot of folks, and it's just that clip just, it pissed me off when I saw it. That man's better than me. I would have fought him. I would have fought him right in the church. Okay, we would have been knocking over the collection plate. And you know how they got that table that says like this doing remembrance to me? That would have been, then fell over. I would have knocked everything over. And pray it's not a Catholic church, because you know the Catholic churches have them big old candles. We would knock the candle over. Church would have been on fire. Everybody got to evacuate. I would have asked for forgiveness in the end, but still, like, I just think that's some trifling stuff. And then think about, you know how pastors always want to shake hands at the end of service? They want to shake and greet everybody. The way I would have been leaving that service if I was in the audience and then it's on the way out and he wants to shake hands. Oh, I'm good. Thank you. Like, boxing. Like, no. That's some trifling stuff. It's interesting because I'm seeing so many people try to justify it. There's no justification to spit in your hand and rub it in somebody's face because you're trying to preach a sermon or put a message out. I don't see it. And then some people were saying, yeah, it's also nasty because, you know, we're in a pandemic. But pandemic or no pandemic, just know. And if you go back and you look at the video and you just see the way that he spit in his hand, he was so intentional about grossing out everybody to the best of his ability. It's just the nastiest, because you can hear it like gargling up and getting ready to go in his hand. And then the fact that he just smushes it and just leaves it. And it's not like there was like at least I didn't see it. I didn't see like a table with some hot water and a washcloth so the guy could wipe his face right away. It's like, no, you're going to stand there with my spit on it because I'm putting a message out here. You just got to get nasty to see the vision. I don't know where y'all find some of these people at. But again, discernment. To me, that's all ego and just being all about yourself and being very pretty much a narcissist. It's like you go in the box with Derek Jackson at this point. And I put you in the box with Paula White too, because she's still summoning the African angels because she's mad about the election. So I just, Anyway, happy Martin Luther King Day. And to you raggedy politicians, I want all y'all to keep your Martin Luther King speeches and keep all of that, because ain't none of y'all doing anything for anybody. And again, you got voting rights on the line and y'all ain't moving on anything. And y'all are comfortable watching people be oppressed and deal with all kind of nonsense and everything else. So save the Martin Luther King quotes, because ain't none of y'all living by what it is that he put out there. And many of you have voted against legislation that helps to better the collective as far as what the people are asking for. So save it. I just want that to be out there. So some of y'all keep them MLK quotes onto it. Keep them. We don't need them today. I don't need anything performative. By the way, side note, don't judge my hat. I'm just happy. I didn't realize Phyllis still made clothes. And so I found this hat. And so I've just been hyped ever since I found it. In my head, it's 1996 right now. So let me be great with my hat. Anyway, share your 2 cents. Mike Todd, you tried it. What? Like, I swear I've seen it all, but until this nonsense. Like, and when I say I've seen it all, like, if you remember, I told you that time I was at the Nats game, and then there was a shooting outside of the game, and everybody thought there was a sniper shooter in the game, and it was 30,000 people running around. Like, I'm always caught up in something crazy. Or even, I didn't tell this story, but I remember, and this is only gonna take a minute, I promise. Like last July, so the building across from me was on fire because some little kids were playing with firecrackers and they shot it and it landed on the balcony and set that building on fire. And then the building next to me, it was some kind of nonsense with some guy who was having a moment, and so he had a gun and was in a standoff with the police. Somehow he ended up on the roof of his building and he ran and jumped on the roof of my building and everything else like that. Now, mind you, I have no idea any of this is going on. I'm in the house minding my business. So I'm getting ready to dump my trash, take my little trash to the trash chute. As soon as I open my door, there's a police officer like, get back in there! I was like, okay, we'll get back in here. All right, I guess I ain't dumping the trash today. And then when I looked out the window, outside, there's like a whole Greenpeace rally at the same time. I'm like, this is a lot. Like, DC be off the chain. So when I say I've seen it all, I feel like I've seen a lot. But Mike Todd, you done added to my list. Get it together. Anyway, I'm out. Share your 2 cents. Subscribe. Baby, get the keys and go up to the stars. Who you